it's amazing to be back in Cleveland. So grateful for Ryan and Rhyne giving me the opportunity to speak to you guys, and we're excited. We haven't been back in Cleveland in 9 years. Was it 9? Baby, how many years is this? It's like 9 years. It's crazy. And for the most part, I was driving in, and I was like, yep, these are Cleveland roads. That didn't change. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this feels like an Ohio road coming in here. And but it is so good to see so many of you that I love and to get hugs and to be back. And so we're really, really grateful. The Rhyne family has changed a little bit. I don't know how these things work here. So, oh, there it is. That's even better. I don't even have to push buttons. But God has taken us across the country to Denver, where we were for about 7 years. And then we just recently moved back to Lexington, Kentucky to lead the church there. But Ashlyn will be 22 this year. And she is in school. She'll be a junior as an elementary ed major. Josiah is 19 and going into his sophomore year of college and is a business major. And so it is amazing. And this is why you guys know I have no hair. And this is what kids do to you. I had no hair when I was here. I have less hair than when I had no hair when I was here the first time. So go, just figure that out. Just do the math in your head. Just walk through that slowly. But this morning, I get an incredible opportunity to talk about, I think, one of the stories in the Bible that most inspires me personally. And so I don't know if you ever had this experience in your life, but you ever feel like life is just noisy? Like you just feel like there's so much coming at you all the time. The kids, mom, dad. The internet, social media, work, church, like just so many people wanting your attention. And I feel like it just turns on so much. Have you ever just been in a place where you're just like, I just want to run away from everyone? I can't even hear myself with you people. Have you ever felt that way? I think what makes it hard for me, guys, is that I think in all of that, sometimes it's just hard to hear God. Like so much I want to hear God, and I want to feel connected to God, and I want to feel close to God, and I want to hear his voice. And in all of this, sometimes I feel like the world is so loud that God seems silent. And so I think that's kind of one of my struggles. The second struggle, if I get really honest with you, is I'm just not a good listener. You can just ask my wife. She tells me all the time, you did not listen to me. You did not listen to me at all. Did not listen. And I don't know if you're a good listener, or you're the kind of person that maybe a person, your spouse or your kid comes up to you and you already know what they're going to ask. And so you immediately turn it off. And then when they're done speaking, you answer a question that they did not ask. I've done that. So, and I think in all of this, what we need most is to hear Jesus in our lives. And so between the world being loud and between the fact that sometimes we're not the best listeners, I want to look at a woman who overcame all the obstacles and actually heard Jesus like no one else in the Gospels. So if you would be, please turn in your Bibles to Mark chapter 7. The Bible says in Mark chapter 7, we're going to pick up here in verse 24. It says, Mark 7:24. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, born in Syria, Phoenicia, and she begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter. You know, one of the things that's really interesting is that Jesus was primarily called to the Jews. And so he spent most of his time in the Jewish provinces healing and teaching and all of those kind of things. And he had such a reputation specifically in the Judean countryside and in the different vicinities of the Israelites that if he was anywhere around the Jewish people, there were crowds. And so what he had to do is he would sneak off out of those provinces and he would sneak into a Gentile place so he could get away. Now, isn't it good to know that Jesus sometimes ran away from all the crazy? He just got away. And yet with Jesus, it's really funny because he's getting away, and it says he's like, listen, we're going to go to Tyre. Don't tell anybody where we're going. Listen, don't say nothing. And then he gets there, and it says people found out. And one woman in particular found out, and she shows up. Now, she doesn't actually have the religious or the cultural or the social or moral credentials to approach an Israelite, a Jew of any kind, much less than a rabbi of Israel. But she has no business running up to Jesus in this house. Because literally, she kind of broke in, because it says he was in the house. So she's not a Jew, so you can't claim hospitality. You're like, hey, I heard Jesus is here, and then she walked in. But she just rolls up in there. And she knows in every way, according to the standards of her culture and day, she is unclean and unqualified to talk to Jesus. You know, what's really interesting is the verb where it says that she was begging, it says she begged Jesus to drive the demon out of her daughter, is actually the present progressive word in the Greek, which means she kept on begging. It's like she walked in the room and was like, Jesus, Jesus, please, will you heal my daughter? And then just sat there. Like she kept on and kept on and kept on. And as a matter of fact, we actually read that in Matthew. There's a parallel account of this story in Matthew 15, and it says, Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, she keeps crying out after us. Now, I think this is very interesting in the parallel passage that we get two new details. Number one is it tells us just blatantly, the Greek word there is she's going on and on and on. I also think it's interesting that Jesus didn't say anything. Have you ever been in a place where you really needed Jesus to show up? And you're just begging God, like, God, you just got to show up. You just got to go shot. And then you start to try to listen, and you don't hear anything. You ever been there? Like, this woman is there. She's in this moment where she needs something more desperately than she needs life itself. Because if you're a parent, the only thing worse than something being wrong with you is something being wrong with your child. She needs something from Jesus like she's never needed anything. And she's begging and begging and begging, and she keeps looking up, and Jesus is not saying a word. Now, one of the things I think that we can learn from this woman is two things if we really want to hear God's voice in our lives. Number one is it takes a posture of humility and persistence. She knows she doesn't belong in this room. She knows that she doesn't have the credentials. She's unqualified and unclean to have this conversation. So when she shows up, she's not showing up with a sense of entitlement. She's showing up humble. And she's not going to take no for an answer. Right? Let me ask you something. What keeps you from being persistent in your prayers? Like just think about this, because to me, I can tell you what keeps me from being persistent in my prayers. See, I have been a Christian for a very long time, and I have seen God do incredible things, and I've especially seen God do incredible things for other people and around me, and sometimes I don't feel like those same kind of miracles show up in my life all the time. So sometimes I'm not persistent because I believe that God can do those things that I need in my life, but I don't think that he will do those things in my life. And so there's a part of her that she's like, I just believe he's going to do this. I just believe he's going to do this. And she's not shutting up. As a matter of fact, the disciples, in all of their generous, loving compassion that they're loving from Jesus, is like, she's getting on my nerves. Send her away. Like, that's some of us, like, other people are needy around us. We're like the disciples, like, I don't have time for you right now. I got my own needs. Go away. Love that. That's just, they're learning. They're learning. The other thing is, there were a lot of other options when people were sick in the first century. Sometimes we just look for a different answer. She really believed that Jesus was the only answer. And see, sometimes I just feel like, well, you're not going to answer me. I will figure this out. Watch me now. Watch me. Right? And then sometimes I just go out. I just leave Jesus' feet. I just go out. I stop begging, and I just get to work. Time to roll up my sleeves, make something happen. My baby going to the best specialist, Jesus. What? I'll find something. But can we stay in a posture of humility? Can we stay persistent when it seems like Jesus is silent? Let's keep reading. How is Jesus ultimately going to respond here? We pick it up here. This is what Jesus says, verse 27. First, let the children eat all they want, he told her. For it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. What? Hold on for just a second. Is anybody else like shocked? Did he just call her a dog? I gotta admit, the first time I read this, I was like, that must be a bad translation. I'm gonna look this up in the Greek. It didn't get much better. It got a little better, but it didn't get much better. You know, see, at first appearance for us, this looks like an insult. This is like insult to injury. But if we look a little closer to the text, we got to dig a little deeper, then we see what God is going to do. You know, see, in our day and time, the dogs are cute. We have domesticated dogs. Everybody likes dogs. I love dogs, and you know, it's just cute puppies. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law have a dog and a puppy growing up, and it's just cute and it's awesome. And we had a dog, so I love dogs. We love dogs. But in Jesus' day, people did not like dogs because they were scavengers. They were wild and unclean and just nasty and dirty, and they were a nuisance. Are you with me here? And actually, it was not uncommon in Jesus' day for Jews to call Gentiles dogs because they saw them as wild and unclean. So is Jesus insulting her? When you look a little closer, the answer is no. Actually, he's actually stating something that is true and inviting her to hear something that she's never understood. See, Jesus actually didn't use the common Greek word for dogs. He used the diminutive term that actually means puppies. So, first of all, she's being called a dog, but if she was being insulted the way everybody else would use the term, they would have used a completely different word. So Jesus says puppies. He basically tells her, we don't feed the kids before we feed our pets. And in Matthew 15, he elaborates on that. He says, I was not sent to the lost, or I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. Like, God's plan for Jesus was that he would go first to the Jews to show them the fulfillment of all the scriptures and all the prophecies, and that he was the fulfillment of all the priests and all the prophets and all of the kings, and that he was the fulfillment of all that God was trying to do in the temple, that he was the truth, and that through the Israelites that all nations would be blessed. And so when he was he's spending all his time in his ministry in all these Judean country, all these vicinities of the Israelites, it's because he had a mission that only was about the Israelites. But let me ask you something real quick. Even if he called you a puppy, how many of you would have lost your stuff? You're not Jewish. So like you don't have like the kind of the cultural norms of like being respectful to a rabbi. Could you imagine if you begged somebody, like, help me, help me, help me? He's like, hey, I ain't gonna take from my kids and give to you, dog. Some of y'all would have lost your stuff. Did you just call me a dog? No, you didn't call me a dog. I'll show you a dog. Like y'all would have been, oh, are you getting racial with me right now? Oh, you Jews are just better than us Gentiles. Are you going to drop a racial slur? Oh, that's how you roll, huh? Oh, literally, he would have got to the last part of that, and no matter what he called you, that would have been the end of your conversation with Jesus. You'd have been like, no, you didn't. Some of you would have been indignant and angry, and some of you would have just been devastated. And you would have just left never hearing Jesus. So what's really interesting is she understood that spiritual breakthrough often comes when we stop arguing with Jesus' truth and start agreeing with it. Because she didn't just hear the truth that he didn't come for her, that she was not the priority. You are not the priority. And rather than being offended, she was like, you are Jesus and you must be right. Now, what's really interesting is she saw not only the hard truth that Jesus was bringing her, but she saw something else. Let's look at her reply. Lord, she replied, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply, you may go, the demon has left your daughter. So she went home, found her child laying on the bed, and the demon gone. First of all, that is the dopest reply ever to Jesus. Like, that's amazing. Because when he said puppy, she said maybe he's not trying to demean me. Because our pets are inside the house. And she said, maybe I don't have a place at the table, but I'm close enough to the table, and God's abundance is so amazing that I don't need the feast. I can be healed with the crumbs. Now, you guys think about this, like, the crumbs were enough. Now, listen, she understood. Now, this is hard for some of you because you have this mindset of God, that God's a big, mean, tyrant God, and that you're constantly trying to appease him. And then if you don't appease him and say the right things in the right way, he's out to get you. This woman had every reason to believe that. He had just called her a puppy. She just called this woman a dog, but she did this. She didn't think he was a mean tyrant, but she also didn't feel like she was entitled to anything he had to offer. You know, in our religious world, we like to do one of those two things. Religious people either think God is the God they're trying to appease so they don't get zapped, or they feel like the God is the God of love and that you're entitled to all that you want. And see, this woman, she's hearing Jesus. She's hearing the will and the words of God because her posture is humble. Because she's persistent in seeing not only that she needs to keep asking, but that she needs to keep seeing that this must be someone good. This God must be good. See, she had heard about all the good things that Jesus had done in the other vicinities and the other towns. And she said, I don't believe that this man is not good. But see, some of you have stopped believing that your God is good. You've ignored all the stories, all the experiences, even some that weren't your own. And you have a narrative that God is holding back because he doesn't like you, or that he's mean, or because he just doesn't care. Now, I love this woman. This woman is crazy because she hears the grace hidden in the challenging truth. You know, listen, how do you respond to the challenging truths in the Bible? Some of us, we've been seeking after God. We might be studying the Bible, and we're hearing things that we don't agree with or that we don't like. Let me be compassionate. Tough. The Bible is not about your truth. The Bible is about God's truth. And your feelings and your experiences and your knowledge will never change God's truth. And the truth of the matter is, he was out in her vicinity trying to get a nap. Just to be real. And she was not his primary ministry. Nothing he said was untrue. It might not have been what she wanted to hear. It might not have been very flattering, but it wasn't untrue. But she saw the puppies thing, and she was like, oh, you didn't say dirty, rotten scoundrel dog, scavenger dog. You said puppy. Puppies are kind of cute. You seem to be a good guy. Let us continue the conversation. I think a lot of us would see miracles if we just continue the conversation. After we accept God's truth, we just continue the conversation. But it comes with accepting the truth. One of the coolest things about this is, do you know how many people call Jesus Lord in the Gospel of Mark? Only her. Do you know this is almost the exact middle of the book, and the whole book pivots on when she says, Lord, even the puppies get crumbs from the table? Do you know how crazy that is? She held on to the truth, and she saw grace in the response. I feel like some of us, sometimes we're just too proud to accept the gospel. People unwilling to accept the truth of Jesus. I'm not going to grovel. If you want to help me or you don't want to help me. Good luck with that. Some of us were too self-consumed to accept the gospel. We're unwilling to accept grace. We have an inferiority complex. Oh, I'm such a bad person. God could never love someone like me. We just get so consumed with ourselves and our unworthiness. And there's nothing wrong with understanding that you're unworthy. But when you believe that your unworthiness is greater than God's goodness, that is a problem. That means that you're so self-consumed that you can no longer see God. The other cool thing about her, guys, this is crazy. In all of the Gospels, guys, you got to understand how crazy this is. In all of the Gospels, how many parables did Jesus teach? Lots, loads of parables to religious people, to his own disciples. She's the only person in any gospel that answers Jesus inside of his own parable. Literally, you know what that means? She's the only one that heard God's message for her ever. Remember when he tells the disciples, he'd be telling parables, and the disciples will get Jesus along and say, hey, what were you talking about again? Yo, what? How many times they get pulled like, hey, goats and sheep, like, run that by me again. You have bread that we don't know nothing, like, huh? How many times Jesus is like, are you serious right now? If I have to explain this one more time, Peter, literally, I'm going to take the keys away. in her faith. And listen, she can teach all of us Westerners something about bold faith. Because listen, as Westerners, we don't know how to be bold unless we're right and entitled. So we're going to be bold like, that's my right. That's my right. It's in the Constitution. And we say, it's my right. Like, I'm right. I'm on the moral high ground. We don't know how to be bold when we're like, I ain't right. I don't deserve this. We want to say, God, give me what I deserve because I have been good. She told Jesus, give me what I don't deserve because you're so good. What? Hold on, y'all gonna roll like that? Oh, man. I got to use that tomorrow in my prayer. Lord, I know you, I'm just not a good dude, but you are amazing. And I know you want to come through, so this is what I'm going to need tomorrow. That's so good. This woman is amazing. But it all comes because she was willing to have a posture of humility, a posture of persistence, a posture of humility that allowed her to accept Jesus' truth even when she was looking for grace. Will you hear Jesus? You want to hear God show up in your life and see things change? How's your posture? Are you on your knees? Or are you shaking your fist in what you're entitled to? How persistent are your prayers? How bold are your prayers? God, don't give me what I deserve because I am not good. God, give me what I don't deserve because you are so, so good. I think when we hear God's voice, when we hear God's grace, then we know that only the crumbs are enough. I pray that you'll find all the crumbs as you hear God's voice. Amen.